On this episode of the Multiplier Mindset, we're going to feature Lori Kennedy, who is a holistic health consultant in Toronto. And Lori is really pulling off a solution that very few entrepreneurs I notice in her position are, and that is that she's a growing entrepreneur. She has a family, she's a single mother, and she talks about all the success that she's had using strategic coach tools to achieve balance between both parts of her life so that both are growing into the future. I hope you enjoy Lori's comments.
I'm Lori Kennedy. By profession, I'm a registered holistic nutritionist. And about 5 years ago, I decided to take my business onto the internet. And so I was running my nutrition business, and then I was also developing programs to mentor and teach other alternative health practitioners how to expand their businesses as well. The impact that I really wanted to have, it's twofold. Personally, I really wanted to transform my life. I wanted to become financially independent. I didn't want to have to rely on anyone else to financially support me. I wanted to be able to take my kids on vacation when I wanted. I wanted time freedom. I thought it was a myth that you could actually have time freedom, and although it didn't happen right away, it's definitely happening now. And then the impact from a professional perspective is I feel this visceral sense of responsibility to be able to teach other people who have similar goals to mine how to do it. I've been doing this for 10 years. I've been fortunate enough to have really great success. So I feel that if I can do it, not having business knowledge, not having technology knowledge, then really anyone of any age can do the same. And so that's really what drives me as well. When I was pregnant with my second son, I went back to school. Although I was already a nutritionist and I already had a business, I thought maybe I'll become a teacher. And I was very pregnant and I didn't fit into the desks. And it turns out that I actually created my own school online. And so that's really what one of my gifts are, is being able to teach, being able to break down really confusing and complex strategies and really teach them in a really applicable way. And I think that's one of the reasons that I've been able to be so successful, is because I teach. And then the other thing too is that I'm not really afraid to share what's going on in the real world and how challenging it is to build a business, especially when you have kids, and especially if you're a woman, because from my experience anyway, it's different. It's not impossible by any stretch of the imagination to build the business that you want, but it certainly doesn't happen overnight. And I missed a lot. I missed a lot of playing at the park, and I missed a lot of just the little things. I didn't miss any of the big things, but I was feeling not like the kind of mother that I wanted to be. One of the success metrics that I've always held was that we have dinner around the dinner table at least 2 nights a week. And that wasn't really happening a lot of the time. And that really bothered me. I think when you're little and you decide to have children, you have this ideal of how a mother is, especially because my mom is amazing and she was always there for us. And I felt like I was missing out on a lot of those moments, and I saw their dad filling in, and that made me feel really guilty, and I didn't like that. Building a business being a mom is really interesting because you can't really ever win. And I read this book by Shonda Rhimes called The Year of Yes. And in one of the pieces in her book, she said when she's winning at one piece, she's inevitably failing at another. An example that I'll give, today, my daughter, who's 8, ran her first cross-country meet. It's York regional stuff, and I'm not there because I'm here investing in myself and in my business. And so I'm winning at this game today, and I'm losing at being a mom, right? Because I made a choice. And so I think that it comes down to choices and priorities. I hate the word balance because as a mom, with a mortgage and children and hockey and gymnastics and a global business and a team and all of my clients, there is no such thing as balance. And so for me, what I've learned to do is prioritize my time. So when I'm here or when I'm working on my business, that's my priority. Like in this moment, I love my children, but they're the teacher's priority in this moment. They're not my priority. And yes, there's a lot of shame and guilt associated with wanting to work on my business, but there's also a lot of pride and empowerment in being able to grow my business and to have financial resources and time freedom. And so I think it's a never-ending struggle that I'm always going to have to deal with in terms of navigating those feelings of ambition and wanting to grow my business and wanting to grind and hustle versus wanting to be present and available to my children. And I think that as I've become more successful, I've been able to hire on more people to help me. And that has freed up a lot of my time, not only physical time, but like the time that I spend in my head thinking about my business. I'm much more able now to be present and enjoy my children versus being with them and constantly thinking about all the things that I have to be doing. And that's been a wonderful, massive shift for me over, I would say, the last year. I don't work on the weekends unless I choose to. Like, I'm not running ragged. And it's because I've implemented a lot of the strategies, not to the fullest extent that I can, because I think there's always improvement that needs to happen, but I can't even begin to describe the dramatic difference. It's not just me, myself, and I anymore. I have a team of, at any given time, for sure 4 people, but it can go up to 15 depending on the project that we're working on. And I know how to structure the delegation, and I know how to structure outcomes, and I know how to do all of these things because of the systems that Strategic Coach basically literally handed to me in a binder. Yeah. So I decided to join Strategic Coach because I was tired. I was very tired. I was working probably 12 to 16 hours a day for years trying to grow my business, and it was growing. And I got to the point where I knew that I couldn't do it alone anymore, and actually I became my own bottleneck because I wanted growth. I wanted to 10x my growth, and there's no foreseeable way that I could have done that on my own and with the help that I had at the time. I was really struggling in terms of how to manage the growth. I knew what to do to grow, but then I knew that if we did, I actually couldn't support it, which was really heartbreaking for me because it was like I had to even pull the reins in a little bit to build up the infrastructure and the team in order to support that growth. Again, my training is in nutrition. All the things that I know about marketing and sales, like I've learned on the fly. I didn't know how to be a boss. I was actually quite afraid of being a boss because to me, bosses are bitchy. And I didn't want to come across as bitchy. And I had a lot of like internal struggles around becoming a boss, although I was always the boss because for a long time it was me, myself, and I. But now I had to bring on people, and I legitimately had no idea how to structure a company. I had a lot of friends who were in similar situations, and in random pockets of my life, everybody was talking about strategic coach. So I started asking questions like, what is it? And then I watched some of the webinars, and I spoke to some people who've attended Strategic Coach. And what they told me was that they give you the how-to. That's what I was really needing. Like, you need to tell me how to run meetings. You need to tell me how to set up my time. How do I be a boss? How do I be a CEO? Like, how do I delegate? How do I do all of these things? I had no idea how to do them. So that's why. And the investment was like not even a second thought. It was like, sure, sign me up. Let's go and do this, because I needed the coaching. I needed to learn how to run my company when it's not just me, myself, and I flying by the seat of my pants, because that's exhausting. And you get to a point in your growth, at least I did anyway, that it would implode on me if I kept that cycle up, and I knew it. And so it was a very easy decision. Like, I would not be here if it was not for the philosophies of this program. Like, never mind the strategy, but just the philosophy that it's okay to have like a large amount of time off. For me, that was really hard to accept because I felt like my self-worth and my validation and my productivity was tied to the hours that I was working. And so just that shift alone has been game-changing. The advice that I have for people who are growing their businesses, whether you are, a mom or parent, or you're just feeling a tad bit burnt out, in my opinion, you need a coach, you need a mentor, you need to learn from people who have achieved the success that you desire. And you need to do it in a way that they're going to then give back to you practical strategies that you can apply to your own business. We weren't brought up to learn how to walk or drive or ride a bike. All of these things we had to learn. So if you didn't have the education or the experiences of learning how to be a boss, you need to go back to school and you need to learn from the people who have done it and who are continuing to do it. Because otherwise you're going to continue to be running in circles. And there's no reason that you should be struggling or be as burnt out as you are, because there are strategies that will teach you how to turn it around, and then you will be able to double your revenue year after year, 10x it. The sky is honestly the limit once you learn the proper strategies and you adopt the proper mindset. Like, you just need to do it. And also learning from people who were not inside my industry. I think that's one of the best things about Strategic Coach, is that you put people in a room from all different walks of life, all different ages, which is something I really appreciate, both genders, and we're able to learn from each other. There's loads of different people in there in industries that I would never otherwise have the opportunity to learn from. And I've gotten some really great ideas of how to deal with consulting problems, employee problems, mindset challenges. It's also nice to be, for me at least too, it's nice to be with women who could become mentors to me, because in the entrepreneurial industry, there's not yet a whole bunch of women. We're always outnumbered by the men. And it's nice to be in a room where it's almost 50-50. And that's amazing. And so those are the types of things that I get from Strategic Coach that I really don't get from anywhere else.
As I've observed entrepreneurs over the last 40 years, I have noticed something that really comes out in Lori's interview with Strategic Coach, and that is that there are so many entrepreneurs who are caught between two failures. If they're really doing well at home and they're spending time at home, then they feel they're shortchanging their business. And if they spend a lot of time at work and they're really successful at business, then they feel guilty about the time that they're not spending at home. And neither side is really satisfying, because you can't really enjoy the one because somehow that you're undermining the other. And some people live their whole life with this sense of almost like a double betrayal. It's almost like a double failure. And that's the reason why the free focus and buffer day system in Strategic Coach is so crucial, because when you're having free days, you're free of thinking about work days. And when you're in focus days and buffer days, the two sides of work, well, then you're not thinking about your free days, because those are already on the schedule. What it does, it just makes sure that every part of your world that's important to you, that's meaningful to you, gets your total concentration and your full enjoyment when you're in it, and you don't have to concern yourself about the other world where you may be tomorrow or you may be next week, but you don't have to think about it until you get there. And it's these divisions between time that really allow entrepreneurs to be fully engaged and fully concentrated and just thoroughly enjoying and developing themselves in every meaningful part of their life. So you've heard Lori's story and the success that she's finding in Strategic Coach. And the whole issue here is productivity where you really need it, and productivity as fast as you can get it, and with a sense of energy and excitement about what you're doing, so that you then have really ample time, more and more time, just for the part of your life that is also equally important to your personal life. So if you're really interested in finding out bypasses and shortcuts and almost like hacks to greater productivity as an entrepreneur in a kind of crazy world, then I'd like you to go to productivityguide.coach.